Hello and welcome back to All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris and I am your host. When we went to break, I was speaking with Chief Armstrong, who is head of the Oakland Police Department. And Chief Armstrong was talking about access to firearms as being really a part of the problem. How can we reduce access to firearms?
Well, I think, we have strong gun laws in California. One of the things that we've seen be a tremendous challenge for us is this influx of what they call ghost guns. Essentially, these are guns that can be put together. These guns are not trackable. They come in packages, but they are much more difficult for law enforcement to be able to determine when they're being used. These guns don't go through the typical approval process or require all of the things that state law require when you purchase a firearm, which is to make sure we do a background check, make sure that you're mentally stable. None of those things are being followed when it comes to people procuring ghost guns. Those guns are being used in our community.
Is there any way to prevent that? Is
Yeah,
there legislation that is necessary or what?
Yeah, it is. Legislation is the option. We've been working with our legislators to begin to craft language that would help limit the access to ghost guns, would also serialize ghost guns. We've also been working with the Biden administration at the top levels to make sure that these ghost guns are prohibited from coming into our community without serial numbers, without a mechanism for us to track them. And so that is something that we definitely would like to see Congress move forward on, is some governance and regulation over ghost guns.
Now, do you have any specific plans that you intend or perhaps are implementing to cut down on the number of homicides here in Oakland?
Yes, I've done a couple things. I've created a new unit called the Violent Crime Operations Center, which is centralized in a group of officers that focus on violent crime throughout the city. They have been really effective at addressing those that have picked up guns and used them. We've arrested now 46 individuals for homicide in the last 6 months. And that, it's unfortunate because you don't want to come to the point where you have to arrest people for killing someone. But obviously, that is one of the most heinous things you can do in our society, is to take the life of someone else. And so there has to be accountability. And so those arrests hopefully make the city less violent. What we're also doing is enhancing our community policing perspective, and that's working directly with community members. Our Department of Violence Prevention, which is doing street outreach as well as violence interruption.
Speaking of working with the community, Ceasefire, I understand it's been around for a few years.
Yeah.
What's going on with Ceasefire now that, I guess, with the pandemic, it's had some impact?
Yeah. So our ceasefire strategy is still our primary strategy to reduce gun violence. And it really focuses in on those that are at the highest risk of being involved in violence. That means those who are at risk of being a shooter or potentially getting shot. It really focuses on our group and gang violence. So essentially what we do is we identify all of the groups and gangs within our city that are participating in violence, and then we call those groups in and we have a conversation with them. And when we have a conversation with them, we let them know that there is an opportunity to make a change in your life and make different decisions.
And is this done with the clergy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's done with the participation of the clergy as well as community members and families of victims. Families that have lost loved ones, they also speak there. And so I think it's a good opportunity for these individuals to hear from them, but also hear that the community cares about them and we want to keep them alive and free. It was impacted by the pandemic because obviously we couldn't meet with people for a significant period of time.
Right.
We couldn't sit down with people and offer them the support and services to get them to change their life. But now we are running our program. We're meeting with people. We hope that we begin to see people making different decisions, and our Department of Violence Prevention is providing support to these individuals.
Now, I think there's another concept, I guess maybe a little bit different from Ceasefire, but it used to be called neighborhood councils. I think, what are they, about 12 or 13, whatever number of different councils in Oakland.
Yeah.
Is that still around?
Yeah, we have neighborhood crime prevention councils in every district in our city, every beat in our city. So 35 neighborhood crime prevention councils led by community members. And essentially they meet once a month and they come together to really discuss the problems and issues that they face in their their particular communities, and they also have access to what we provide as a community resource officer. And that officer attends those meetings, and officers helps them solve problems in their community, but really doing it in a more collaborative fashion.
Now, is there a single officer assigned to these councils, or what? How does that operate?
Yeah,
now?
there's one individual officer assigned to each neighborhood crime prevention council. Those officers attend every meeting, and they work directly with community.
Now, what about the police commission? I know it's formed 3 or 4 years ago. How have they been involved, or what could they do more, if anything, to help with this problem?
Well, you know, our police commission has really been holding us accountable. They really are an oversight body that holds the department accountable, ensure that we're following our policies, ensure that we're seeking to improve our policies and create best practices, as well as they have the community's investigative arm, which is the CPRA, the Community Policing Review Agency. So essentially, it's an internal affairs, if you would, where it is a non-police investigations division.
And serves sort of as an oversight, I assume, in terms of the police department. We're going to have to go to break again. My name is Robert L. Harris, and I am your host. And we're talking seriously about the situation here in Oakland. And it's my great pleasure to have as my guest Chief Armstrong of the Oakland Police Department. Don't touch that remote. Matter of fact, put it down. We will be right back with All About Community.